It's 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're lying in bed, exhausted, but your phone is open to a productivity article you're only half reading, and your email is one tap away, and there's still that thing you were supposed to handle 3 days ago that you haven't answered yet. And somehow, doing absolutely nothing has made you more tired than doing something would have. If you were born between roughly 1981 and 1996, welcome. You're about to feel very seen. Because today we're breaking down the psychology of millennials. The generation that was handed a promise, worked harder than anyone expected them to, and somehow ended up the most exhausted group of adults in recent history. And the reason might not be what you think. To understand millennials, you have to understand the pitch they were sold. Work hard in school, go to college, get a degree, get a job, buy a house, retire comfortable. That was the script. Their parents believed it. Their teachers repeated it. It was printed on every motivational poster in every classroom in America. But somewhere between their first participation trophy and their first student loan payment, the ground started shifting underneath them. In 2008, the oldest millennials were graduating straight into the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Entry-level jobs required 3 years of experience. Average student debt climbed past $30,000. Housing prices grew faster than wages in every major city. And the same adults who sold them the script turned around and called them lazy for not being able to follow it. Psychologically, this did something very specific. It created what researchers call a broken contingency, when effort and reward stop correlating the way your brain was trained to expect. Here's what that does to a nervous system. Your brain is constantly calculating whether your effort is producing results. When it can't find that pattern, it doesn't stop trying. It tries harder, faster, in more directions. That's where millennial burnout actually lives. Not in laziness, but in relentless, unrewarded productivity. Anne Helen Peterson, who wrote the defining essay on this in 2019, called it Errand paralysis. You have 15 minutes. You should return that email. You should call the dentist. You should fold the laundry. And instead, you stare at the wall, you open Instagram, you close it, you open it again. It's not that you don't care. It's that your brain has been running on survival mode productivity for so long that small decisions now feel as draining as large ones. Decision fatigue becomes your baseline. And then something stranger happens. Because the old markers of success were out of reach, the house, the stability, the family at 25, millennials rewrote success as optimization. Optimize your morning routine. Optimize your gut health. Optimize your career with a side hustle. Optimize your friendships through scheduled check-ins. The self stopped being a life to live and became a project to manage. Sociologists call this the optimized self, where identity collapses into performance. Your worth becomes measurable. Your rest becomes guilty. Your hobbies become content. And because every platform rewards visibility, millennials became the first generation where not posting started to feel like failing. The irony is brutal. They were raised to believe they could be anything, so they tried to be everything. And being everything, it turns out, is exactly how you end up feeling like nothing in particular. But here's what's fascinating. Despite being labeled the most self-absorbed generation in recent memory, millennials might actually be the most self-aware one. They invented therapy speak. They normalized talking about mental health at work. They destigmatized antidepressants, admitted to burnout out loud, and turned boundaries from a clinical term into everyday vocabulary. And there's real research backing this. A 2022 Deloitte survey found that 46% of millennials reported feeling burned out, but they were also the generation most likely to name it, seek help for it, and change jobs because of it. For every previous generation, burnout was a personal failing. For millennials, it became a systemic diagnosis. They watched their parents work themselves into heart attacks for companies that laid them off at 55. They watched their mentors grind through meaningless meetings only to retire into anxiety. And somewhere along the way, millennials started asking the question no generation before them had really asked out loud. What's the point? That question is quietly radical. And it's rewriting workplaces, relationships, and success itself, whether the older generations notice or not. This is why you see millennials leading the quiet quitting conversation, normalizing career pivots at 35, and refusing to buy into hustle culture the way they once did. It's not apathy. It's the slow, earned realization that the old script was rigged, and that building a life around optimization is a kind of self-abandonment disguised as self-care. They're the first generation to openly say, I don't want to be the most productive version of myself. I want to be the most alive version of myself. And that shift, small as it sounds, is generational psychology in real time. Still, the damage is there. A lot of millennials have nervous systems that can't feel proud of rest, can't enjoy a weekend without guilt, can't experience stillness without immediately reaching for something to fill it. Healing from burnout isn't about slowing down. It's about retraining the brain to believe that slowing down is safe. So the next time you feel guilty for doing nothing, remember, you're not lazy. You're not broken. You're the product of a system that taught you your worth was measurable and then moved the measuring stick every time you got close. You don't have to optimize your way out of that. You just have to notice it's happening. If this hit home, hit subscribe, and the next one might explain something about yourself you've never quite put into words. Speaking of which, there's a reason certain people can sit in silence for hours while everyone else needs constant noise, and it might be their quiet superpower.